Hello and welcome back to the On the Edge Sports Podcast, the Sligo Club Championship Special. As you can see, we have a slightly different setup. We had a few technical difficulties, so we had to rearrange. But I think we're looking okay, Darren.
I think so. I'm happy
We're not
enough,
too bad.
yeah.
Well, as we always say on this show, no big music, no intros. We don't be telling you what we're up to for the weekend. Straight in, we have to say firstly, congrats to Mona McSharry. At the time of recording, she has won her silver medal, so well done, and she's still got more hits to go. And also Danielle Farrell from Sligo, who also was performing at the European Aquatic Championships. So we are recording later in the week because I was away in the European Championships, but straight in, Sligo Senior Championship, okay? Group 1, here are the results for anyone that hadn't heard them. Tourlestrane 1-12, Shamrock Gaels. For the second week in a row, a draw 2-9, and Tubbercurry 1-13, St Mary's 2-14. Again, another close to and fro battle there. And the Group 2 results in Coolaney, Mullinabreena 17 points, St Molaise Gaels 1-16. Maybe a game that maybe wasn't expected to be as close as that. We'll delve into them all in a moment. And then Easkey 6 points, Drumcliff Ross's point 1-16. So let's just get into them. We'll go through them here one by one. So Darren, Shamrock Gaels, again, you know, last year's champions. We were at the first game against Eastern Harps, which ended in a draw. Could have gone either way. And then Tourlestrane, again, I'm learning lots about the club championship from, you know, different people, and maybe everyone wouldn't have thought Tourlestrane would be putting it up to Shamrock Gaels as close as they did, but another ding-dong match.
Yeah, now look at, I was at the game. Shamrock Gaels rescued it at the end again.
It was David Quinn.
David Quinn, but they got a goal just before that. Sean Carroll, look at a high ball into the box. Sean Carroll ends up getting a hand to it and put it into the net, and then straight from that then, or maybe a minute later, Tourlestrane breach, and Shamrock Gaels had a tap over free to get the draw. Now, they had the decision to make whether it was going to be brought back out for a 2-pointer and go for the win.
Yeah.
Now, look at, we've mentioned it a few times, jeopardy. It was like, if they were to miss that 2-point effort and lose the game, of course, then you have egg in your face and saying, why did you go for it? But yeah, they tapped it over, and they got, for the second week in a row, they got another point on the board with a draw. Now look at Tourlestrane probably should have won the game.
It's not bad. And like, they had a big game, wasn't it? Mary's the first week?
Yeah, Mary's the first week.
Really put up to Mary's as well.
They really did, yeah. And look, we said it before that, you know, you don't have 7 consecutive county championships, and I know they've come back to the pack in the last couple of years, but they still have a lot of pride in themselves, and they're still, they have some very good players throughout the team, and some of their elder statesmen, the likes of Johnny Kelly and Adrian McIntyre, you know, they really drove the game on. Barry Walsh there at 6. And of course, Carl Henry inside then was a real handful all day long. So look at they really put it up to Shamrock Gaels, and they probably would be kicking themselves if they didn't come away with the 2 points.
Yeah, because they were 4 points up in the 59th minute until that goal. So I mean, you know, you're thinking, well, then again, look at in the new rules, like the last 4 minutes, so much can change.
There's nothing to it, and also look at Shamrock Gaels probably deserve a small bit of credit as well for coming back and you know, grinding it out.
Are these the results of champions in one sense? You know, Eastern Harps had them a little bit on the rack for a while.
Yeah, they did, of course.
Tubbercurry.
Yeah.
So I love, we're trying to feel out where's everyone landing. You know what I mean? Look at 2 draws, they haven't won yet, but they're still there.
And look at, they're probably going to be looking at, you know, if we pick up another win, we're going to be into the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Now we'll touch on the fixtures in a few minutes. You know what's happening for the weekend and the coming weeks. But we said it before that Shamrock Gaels have 4 in the bounce, so they have 2 done. Yeah. They have 2 points got. They have another one coming up this week and another one the week after. So like, it's tough going, and they are carrying a few injuries throughout the panel. There's a lot of fellas missing off last year's county winning team. So you know, whether them boys are going to be back for this weekend or for the following weekend, you know, only time will tell on that.
Yeah, and it's kind of maybe a second season syndrome because they hadn't won it in a few years before. So that could be, you know, a new territory for a team and a squad, and have to get like the hunger back.
It was tough conditions in Kent Park last Sunday, like the really slippery underfoot conditions, because there's not a huge amount of grass on the playing surface up there, and there was a huge amount of rain on Sunday morning, and even for the first 10-15 minutes there was an awful downpour, so it just made it like there was lots of fellas slipping and sliding all over the place.
And was it that game there was a bit of a wind as well?
There was a bit of a breeze going into the near goals, but again didn't really play a huge part in it, I would say, like, you know. But again, look at it, it's you harp back to it, 2 games that they could have lost and they ended up drawing both of them, you know.
So they pulled it the right way they wanted to go. And the other team in their group then was Tubbercurry and St Mary's. Now I went out to this game as well, and again, you know, I'd be talking to people that know more than me about it, and they were saying, look, you would have to fancy St Mary's, and this was Tubbercurry's first game. And again, it ended up at 4 points only in the end, and it was, you know, unfortunately the goalie short kick out to the wrong man, and Nathan Rooney then, who racked up 1-7 in total. You know, he did excellently, but like, there was another game in the balance. There's an awful lot of exciting games.
And look at, like, I suppose Tubber have been coming off a very, very bad league campaign. You know, they lost all their games in the league.
Wow.
Right, 9 from 9, and you know it's tough coming into championship then. But like I said it before, that they're getting a couple of players back, like the likes of Eddie McGuinness is a huge player for them. Josh Flynn there inside, you know.
I was really impressed with him. Yeah, he is a
serious
real
ball winning
rocket.
ability.
Yeah.
Like, you know, little pocket rocket there, like, you know. And you had Luke Gilmartin there, of like he ended up with 3 or 4 points.
A lot of them in the second half, I'd say.
Yeah, you know, and young Perry there as well, you know. And then they've big men throughout the field. And then they had a wing back, Conor McDonough, who I didn't really know an awful lot of, and he kicked 2 2-pointers. You know, massive scores. But look at it's one of these things. Championship football is an awful lot different to league football. You know, you're going out there, you're putting your best foot forward, you have your best players playing. You know, most of the time, obviously, if they're carrying long-term injuries, they're not going to be there. But again, look at Tubber really put it up to St. Mary's, and St. Mary's were tested. Probably didn't think they were going to be as tested as much. And
they were losing by five points to 1 at one stage, and both teams into the wind nearly played better.
Yeah, and Bunnaden is funny like that.
Yeah.
It plays a little bit funny. It plays like, because it's a smaller pitch, it plays nearly that, you know, if you're against the wind, the team that's against the wind usually plays a little bit better. And I don't know why it is.
There's no rhyme or reason.
There's
it
not.
Just happens.
It's just the way it is. But yeah, look at David McGovern in midfield, won, from what I heard, some real dirty ball and, you know, breaking ball from, you know, because like there's big men in the Tubber team there as well, like, you know, and Murphy and McCann at midfield, they're going to be breaking ball and spoiling it. And then of course you have Nathan Rooney that clipped over 1-7 on the night. You had Eli back playing. You had Muggsy, of course, coming up with a few scores there.
By the way, I said I was at it. I thought Muggsy was the real quarterback for lots of that game.
Yeah.
Slowed it down at times, you know, was a real linchpin in the passing. You know what I mean? The experienced brain,
of course,
there. And he got his own 3 points, as you said.
He did, yeah. And Kyle Cawley got the goal just before half time, which was a crucial goal to get, because Tubber were after getting a goal down the far side themselves.
It was almost instant.
You know, and then they went up the field and got the goal just before half time. So like, it's a different mindset. You're going into the half time team talk then, and you're not all of a sudden 3 or 4 or 5 down, because that's where they were nearly finding themselves. And then they come out in the second half and they're only a point down at that stage, and they can really ramp it up for the second half then. And I know Kyle went off with an injury at half time, so you know, hopefully he's going to be back for them, because they need, like, yeah, they have lots of players and they have lots of good young fellas coming on, like Connor Davey come on.
By the way, Connor Davey. Yeah. Someone was telling me about him when he was coming on, and like, that lad just looks like an absolute.
He's
natural,
a man mountain, yeah.
Oh, like, but just so calm in the ball. He's only like 18.
Minor,
so, like,
18, yeah.
And they went on to win the minor.
They won the minor during the week.
So
yeah,
3 minors. But yeah, young Meehan, obviously he's a bit of pedigree there with the Galway Meehans.
Course,
his dad Enda.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, again, they both come on and got a point as well.
Yeah, like, and when you have them young fellas coming on, it's giving you that lift that you really need in them tight games, because them young fellas coming on, no more than when we mentioned the young fellas with Mayo, they have no baggage, they have no, you know, they're not carrying anything, they're just going out and playing football and expressing themselves, whereas another guy might be overthinking it a little bit, you know. But again, look at St. Mary's got the win. They're 2 from 2. You know,
it's all you can ask for, and you're building.
This is it. And these games are all about winning at this stage of the year. They're about winning, and they're about getting points on the board, and they're about getting to the knockout stages. Yeah. So they'll be happy with where they're at. Yes, they probably have lots of work to do. Tubber, on the flip side of that, you know, again, they'll probably be a little bit happier than where they were a couple of weeks ago, because they didn't know where they were. And again, if they can keep all them players fit and on the field and get 1 or 2 others coming into the fray, you just don't know where that could bring them, like, you know.
Yeah. And it was Josh Flynn, you said, wasn't it? And Aaron Perry. They're very similar build and speed. And I think they'll give a lot of backs. In fairness to the Mary's full back line kind of started to get the handle on Josh Flynn. And the first half he was winning loads.
Yeah, I think young O'Hara himself had a great battle.
Yeah, a great battle, and it was a bit like the Eastern Harps game where Matt Henry was kind of running riot, and then it got kind of calmed down a bit.
Yeah, and of course, look, you're always going to have a defender that's going to, if the forward is getting the better of him, he's going to really knuckle down,
or else be switched.
Yeah, exactly, or else be hooked or something like that. But yeah, look at it's and again of similar stature, so it kind of suited him. But yeah, Josh Flynn is a little pocket rocket, great ball winning ability inside. So look, at Tubber would be okay where they were at. Be disappointed with their league form, but look, at I said championship is a completely different ball game then.
Yeah. And moving on to the other group then, Drumcliff Ross's Point, another impressive victory, 116 to Easkey, 6 points again. one-sided affair here, and they did it without our player of the week, which we'll be getting to in a few minutes after the senior section. We'll have our player of the week and our top scorer of the week. We'll tell you all about our sponsors and all our sections now, but without Cian Lally.
Yeah, and look at I mentioned it last week. I thought it'd be a long day at the office for Easkey. You know, they're just not at the level of where Drumcliff are at. Like Drumcliff are really, you know, they're flexing their muscles again. I think it was 9 or 10 points to 1 at half time. And
yeah, that was I had it there. Yeah, 30. Oh, they stretched it out, but yeah, they only got one score in the first half.
Yeah,
Easkey as well.
like
8 in it.
Yeah, that's tough. And then of course you had Michael Carroll there, like what Cian Lally was missing, who kicked 10 the week before. Michael Carroll comes up to the plate and kicks 9 the last day. And you know, I was involved with the Sigerson team this year, and Michael was there. Then he ended up having to go for I think it was a hernia operation he had, so he missed a few weeks. But you know, a right good young fella. He was playing centre forward for Sligo under 20s this year, and he's not afraid to shoot. And he kicked a couple of 2-pointers the last day. And you know, they have a really strong panel. Like they have like the likes of James Donlan is there, who was on the county panel this year. You know, you have Aidan Ryan came back for them again, who didn't tog the first week. He came on the last day, and obviously we mentioned that Cian Lally didn't play. So look at like Drumcliff are, you know, they're very, very strong at the moment, and just Easkey just are not at that level at the moment, and they're getting players back week on week, but whether them players are going to be enough to help them in the long run remains to be seen. Like, so, you know, but very impressive Drumcliff again.
Yeah, no, again, they look, again, I didn't see that game, but again, the day I did see them, they just look really well drilled, and as I said, without Cian Lally. So if you're lining them up next week now, or you know what I mean, you're like,
of course,
okay, well, what if he plays, what if he doesn't? And he's had his protein pack, which we'll get to. The last of the games in, Coolaney Mullinabreena 17 points, St. Molaise Gaels 116. And again, I mean, Molaise still missing a couple of players. Where did I was reading it? They were still missing a couple of players. And Alan McLaughlin came on, though.
Alan McLaughlin came on, but Luke Castley, the two Lukes are missing, Luke Castley and Luke Towie.
Yes. Okay.
So, but look at, we didn't really know what Coolaney Mullinabreena were going to bring to the table. You know, intermediate championship last year, you know, their first game at senior championship in a couple of years. And they gave Molaise their fill of it. Yeah. And again, look at, it's one of these things, like we said, they have good players throughout the team. They really do, and this is without Nathan Mullen, who is, you know, they're one of their strongest players, county player for the last number of years. Excellent athlete.
Is he out for long?
I'm not 100% sure on that, but again, look at they have you know, the two Gormans are playing there. You have the Barretts are playing there. You know, they're right good team throughout. You know, like they're strong lads. But Molaise, I suppose, they're probably, you know, they're missing. Obviously, the two Lukes, and Alan McLaughlin had to come off the bench. Alan McLaughlin kicked 2 points, but again, they're missing a couple of fellas that have been there and done it over the last couple of years. The likes of Jack Davin and the likes of, you know, Carl Hearn there, who are, you know, they're out for the foreseeable future, like, you know, which are big losses. But then you have the younger fellas who have been playing county under 21, the likes of Cian Nicholson, the likes of Paul Flynn, and then of course Aaron
Nicholson
Lang.
got 3, I see there as well, and it was Aaron Lang actually got a 2-pointer in injury time, which won the game.
Yeah.
So
and like he's putting up big scores, and you know, he's kind of, you know, taken over from where others have departed, like, you know. And you need that, and like, he is a sharpshooter. I was watching him with county under 20s, and he is not afraid to shoot, and he knows where the posts are. Now, we had a couple of wides as well, but in that instance, aren't you just as well to keep at it? Like, this is...
Well, I mean, we see that with Mayo. Keep going.
Just keep going.
And I see here John Gilson and save was crucial against...
Yeah, John Gilson is playing a goal to them. Niall McLaughlin, who has been their keeper for years, which is...
That's Alan's brother.
Alan's brother.
Yeah. I taught the two of them to drive.
Did you
there
really?
You go. That's a non-football fact for you.
There you go. Well, he's not playing the last couple of games. I'm not, and I presume it can only be an injury.
Okay.
So he's missing, but John Gilson pulled off a save late on as well, and he's gone in there. But again, look at, it's Molaise got the win, and Mullinabreena, you know, it could suck the life out of them, or it could give them a bit of small belief ahead of the fixtures coming up, like, you know. So that's where we're at the moment with Molaise.
But again, just going to the table here, and again, if you're watching, we'll hopefully get these up in front of you. If not, they'll be on our social media. Mary's there in Group 1 on 4 points. Shamrock Gaels are on 2. Eastern Harps on 1. Tourlestrane on 1. And Tubbercurry on no points yet. Like that group is all to play for there.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah,
and I suppose a lot of people might have fancied Shamrock Gaels would have maybe have kind of got their 2 wins by now.
Yeah, so like this weekend's fixtures are going to tell a lot.
Yeah,
like
I suppose we'll just call them out actually.
Yeah.
So Eastern Harps played Tubbercurry. So, well, the one thing I'm learning about this senior championship is you couldn't confidently call. Maybe there's 1 or 2 games you go, okay, that team is just not at it yet. And Mary's play Shamrock Gaels, and that is 7:30 out in Enniscrone. Sorry, the Eastern Harps and Tubbercurry is in Connolly Park in Coolaney at 6:30 on Saturday. Both games Saturday, 6:30 and 7:30. And Mary's and Shamrock Gaels is on live stream on Sligo GATV.ie. Let me just double check if that right now, because I probably got it wrong.
No, it is.
Yeah, that's on live stream. And then the other live stream game at the weekend is Coolera and Coolaney, which we'll get back to in a moment. But yeah, so Mary's against Shamrock Gaels, that'll be a
that's where you're going to find out where Shamrock Gaels are at, really, because
and for Mary's, right?
Yeah, of course.
Do you know,
but Mary's have 2 from 2.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like they're sitting pretty at the top of the table, so they know that a win at the weekend is more than likely going to see them into a semi-final.
Yeah, you'd have to think.
Okay, so then you're looking at Shamrock Gaels, and they're going to be thinking, well, if we didn't get the point last week, and if we had lose to Mary's this weekend, then that could be a serious bother of ending up in the bottom 2. So they're going to be looking at, okay, let's put our best foot forward. Let's see, can we get the likes of Shane Degnan back on the pitch, who didn't play their last 2 games, which is a huge loss. So, that's an inter-county forward that you're missing off your starting team. They have a couple of younger guys that are missing out of their back line. Oisin Conlon and, Daniel King. I'm not 100% sure what their injury situation is, but to be really getting to the pitch of things, they need a lot of them guys playing, and from the last couple of games you're watching, St. Mary's will be going in with full of confidence at the weekend, but again, look at Shamrock Gaels are county champions, okay, and both teams going over to Enniscrone on Saturday night.
Long spin.
It's a long spin, and it's a huge game.
Yeah,
it's a huge
game.
Maybe
it'll reinvigorate Shamrock Gaels. That's what they had their momentous occasion last year.
That's exactly it. So look, time will tell on that, but again, it's Mary's just seem to be clicking, getting players back at the right time. Like Ronan Island is coming back into the mix as well. So
I heard a man telling me great things about Ronan Island today. Now, man, they know more than me about it. So
and now this weekend might come a little bit too soon for him. But again, it's if Mary's were to win this weekend, it puts them probably in a semi-final. Shamrock Gaels win this weekend, it's all to play for coming into the last group games, which of course is what we mentioned. When you get to quarterfinals, that's what you want. Whereas finishing third over the last few years just meant that the last games were null and void for an awful lot of teams. True. Which made it, it made a mockery of it, really, And then you go to Harps and Tubber. As we said, Tubber would be happy with the performance.
Very much so. But and again, I mean, I don't mean to bring it up, but it was the goalie mistake, you could say, was the turning point. And then they did get a man sent off very late on as well. So little small things that they can kind of go, well,
if you tidy that up as well. But now, Harps, of course, we mentioned it the night that we were out in Tubber when they were playing Shamrock Gaels and the Drew with Shamrock Gaels. They had a week off in between that. Yeah, okay. So I think that week off could be huge for Eastern Harps because, they have a young fella there, Alex Lilly, who's county under 20 as well, but is a real, good, strong young fella, but will make a big difference to that. They have Caelan Hunt, who didn't play.
Yes,
I know he was in I know he's in a space boot now. I don't know how serious the injury is. Them space boots can be more precautionary a lot of the times. But if they were to get them back on the field after a week's rest, I think that they might their pace might just have too much for Tubbercurry on Saturday evening. Now again, don't get me wrong, them forwards that we mentioned, the likes of Luke Martin, the likes of Aaron Perry and the likes of Josh Flynn will take serious marking.
That's for sure.
And they have big boys in the middle of the field, and then you have the likes of Eddie McGuinness and young McDonough in the back line who popped up with two pointers.
Yeah, I know.
So they're that's good players all over the field.
One thing we keep mentioning, there's 2 things we keep mentioning. There's so many of the county lads injured, and there's so many of these under 20s absolutely lighting up the championship.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Young lads, probably about 18, 20, 18, 19.
That's all they are, But it's just the freedom, isn't it? Just go out and play ball, So
could you see the 2 young to be brought into the senior setup?
I don't think so. I'd say after what's happening last year.
So they'd be willing to throw a bit of caution to the wind. Yeah. Well,
why not?
As I said, and just to go back to Group 2 here. So Molaise Gaels are sitting pretty with Drumcliff, 4 points apiece. Molaise have 10 points better off points difference. And then Coolera, no points yet, but they've only played once, of course. Coolaney, 1 game. Again, a close game, but obviously they didn't get their points yet. And Easkey on no points. Now, they're obviously not looking well. They've minus 36 points difference. So, again, this weekend then, Molaise Gaels versus Drumcliff. This will be a cracker. There's going to be 2 fellas commentating on this on Ocean FM. If you're tuning in, it'll be on oceanfm.ie and Ocean FM on the radio as well. Out in Ballymote, I'm looking forward to seeing this one. I've seen Drumcliff in the flesh this year. I haven't seen Molaise Gaels. Yeah. And as you said, it's kind of nicely poised.
That's the rivalry, neighbours.
Yeah, north of the river there. And someone said, am I right, that maybe only once has north of the river has won the county final. Someone said this to me now, and I was talking to fellas. It was actually in St Mary's after the Mary's game the last day. And someone said Molaise Gaels won it once, maybe in the 70s. Someone will please comment and tell us we're wrong.
Right.
So again, there's a bit of a drought out the north there.
It is,
But so as you said, Molaise Gaels, you said, do you think those Casterly and Towie, is there any inclination?
Well, I think Towie not so much, but from what I hear, I think Casterly is coming back from the States this week.
Oh, so, okay.
It's a case that, this game fell after being away in America. You put him straight into the team. This is your county player. You put him straight in there, and it would be interesting to see if he goes straight in. Would he pick up Lally? If he played, county teammates,
they'll hardly rest Lally for this. I imagine.
Definitely not. No, it'll be putting their strongest 15 out. I guarantee you that.
Yeah.
But again, look at that is set up for top of the table clash.
Yeah.
The winner takes all. It's like, again, Drumcliff would be looking at, we win this, we're nailed on for a semi-final situation, and then that's when you get your week's break at the end of the championship, or your 2 weeks break at the end of the championship to regroup and recharge.
So they don't have a game the last one, so that's like, if they can, as you said, that's the carrot, isn't it?
It is, of course.
Seal that semi-final place.
and then you're just, you can sit back and relax and watch whatever unfolds then after that.
Yeah.
But again, look at Molaise, like when you go into this rivalry of the neighbours playing each other.
Yeah, is there a fierce rivalry out there?
Yeah,
again, I wouldn't understand it.
Of course there would. There would, of course. And I think it was even a few years ago that they were in a relegation playoff between the two of them, and I think it went to the third or fourth game. It was like Dublin and Meath in the 90s. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so there's no way that you could say, well, Drumcliff will win this, or Molaise should be winning this. Could
this be the big draw of the weekend?
Well,
there's always one draw in the
well, it depends who's commentating on it. So
yeah. We put the jinx in it maybe.
But
that's a cracking. I'm looking forward to seeing them in the flesh now. And as I said, I haven't gone to any bad game yet. Any game I go to seems to be great,
Yeah.
And then the other team, Colera, again back after their first weekend disappointment against Drumcliff. A lot of talk still. No one knows if the Murphys, Sean and Niall, are going to be back. But they'll be looking straight away. But Coolaney, maybe Boyd after this
of
game.
course. Look at that game for Coolaney Mullinabreena will bring them on, because championship football is a completely different mindset to league football. Completely different setup from what your management is doing, what the players are doing, and you need to be playing championship football to get up to the pitch of playing championship football. Like, you can't just turn it on. They got close last week. As long as they didn't pick up any injuries, they'll be looking at Colera the next day, who on their first day out, they got bet by Drumcliff. They were 10 or 11 points down in the second half. Doesn't happen too often. Now they came back and they ended up losing by 2 in the end.
Yeah.
Right? But Colera be needing to get some of them players that you mentioned that were injured
back as soon as possible,
and hopefully they didn't pick up any injuries between now and then, and get a couple of good weeks training under the belt. Again, it could be a potential banana skin, because you're playing this team that you're expected to beat, that people are going to be saying, oh, but sure, Colera lost Drumcliff, but they're going to...
Sean Taylor as well is still not...
Yeah, well, he
tagged on the first day.
He did, yeah.
So, that's 3 key players, and maybe it just breaks up that flow in the team. So
yeah, it does, definitely. But it's everybody's going to be saying that, oh, well, Colera should be winning this. And that's the time that you might get caught in the hot.
Yeah.
Now, look at, again, if they have their mindset right, if they have, if they get a good, strong 15 on the pitch, whether Murph is going to be playing or not, remains to be seen. They probably could do with him. If they don't have him, it brings it back to a level playing field as well.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of forwards there for Coolaney Mullinabreena that need a bit of watching and need a bit of marking. So look at it's a game that'll be, I would expect Colera to win it, but I think it might be a lot tighter than other people might think.
That's Bunnadan Community Park at 2:00 on Sunday. Am I right in saying that's the only Sunday game in the senior?
That's streamed.
That's right. And that's live on Sligo GA TV. SligoGATV.e, and that's on Ocean FM as well. Sorry, now we have to be checking back and over everything here, make sure we tell you the right detail. Everything is on Sligo GA's website anyways, if you're not sure. So another cracking weekend in store. I'm looking forward to the two of us going out to Ballymote to commentate. That one should be a great ding-dong battle, and we'll probably be thrown in the middle of the stand amongst the crowd, so we won't be just too rude to anyone. So like last week, you might have seen our social media, we very kindly, Brian O'Reilly there in Sherlocks Butchers in Ballisodare had kind of offered to come in and do some sponsorships, so we said, well, let's pick something that he can sponsor. So it was Player of the Week. We gave it to Cian Lally, and he got his protein pack. They do a €20 protein pack, all your pack of meat you need for the week, and especially ye high-end athletes out there, of course you need your protein. So call out to Brian in Sherlocks and Ballisodare. If you give him a message beforehand, he can even have it ready for you. But yeah, Cian was delighted with his, and so we have a panel of 5 or 6 people. We kind of asked their opinions on these, so it's not just us picking them, and it is a bit of fun really. But this week's Player of the Week, Darren, who did we go go for?
Look, there was a few in the mix. There really was, but at the end of it, Carl Henry from Tourlestrane got the nod this week.
And what was he scoring in one?
He got 1-6.
1-6, yes.
Tourlestrane were expected to be beaten on Sunday, by Shamrock Gaels, and beaten comprehensively by bookies and by everybody else, and maybe not so much by the Tourlestrane players themselves. And he stood up to the mark on Sunday, and he brought the fight to them. And he got a super score in the first half, and then the second half he got his goal. He got a 2-pointer. He was unlucky with another free. He was just very, very strong and physical all day long, and they wouldn't be anywhere next or near getting a draw out of the game without him.
So that kind of lent more. Like, I know there was other high scores in senior. Like we had, in fairness, Nathan Rooney was unreal as well. He got his 1-7, but just the context of the situation.
Just the situation.
The underdogs, and he kept them in it. Like
complete underdogs, and kept them in it, and ends up with 1-6 against the county champions is not bad going at all.
So Cahill will be having the dinner free for this week anyways. We'll get you on social media, and you can just call out to Ballisodare, to Brian and Sherlocks to collect it. And we're also each week Brian Curran, aka Snake himself. I'm sure more people know him by that than the real name. So he also very kindly, and we're very grateful for anyone to come in, because this is a hobby. We don't get paid to do this. We will be starting a Patreon, so hopefully because a lot of hours goes into this, as Darren knows, and if only just the WhatsApps have to send each other, that takes a lot of time. But Brian, they only recently this year they set up the Sweat Happens Reset and Recovers studio facility out in Tubbercurry. So you have everything from your cold plunge to your sauna, steam room,
sauna,
and then the big leg bags,
boots,
or whatever, recovery boots.
Yeah.
That's their technical name, bags. But so they're out there in Tubbercurry, and they said, look, we'd love to get involved as well and support you. So we've now come up, we're going to give the top score of the week each week. We'll get a free session as well, in fairness to the guys that come in the sponsor show, and they're giving you a free session. And this week's top scorer was
Ryan Phillips from Omar Gaels. So like we said that we were going to do it across all the grades,
all the championships,
and just see where it ended up. And if it's a case that people end up on equal, might have to be
have to go in together.
A hat draw, both into the plunge together.
Draw,
but Ryan Phillips from Omar Gaels, who played Couleur Hill in the junior championship at the weekend, it was a crazy game, because you had Oisin O'Neill from Couleur Hill, who racked up 3-5 himself, but Ryan Phillips kicked 2-9.
Okay.
Right.
And that was before he knew there was a prize.
Yeah, and which is serious clipping,
Could we be influencing games now where lads won't be passing
the ball? But no, that's serious clipping, and Ryan Phillips is a top player. I'm not sure, is he captain the team this year? He might be. I think he is captain the team, because Omar Gaels bet Giva in the Division 2 final, and he kicked the winning 2-pointer right at the end of the game after extra time. He's a real top player who's had some injuries down through the years, but it's good to see him flying at the top end, and kicking 2-9 in a championship game. I'm sure he's looking for a bit of recovery, so
he'll
get out to Snake's place
get the boots on. So again, thanks again to Brian, both two Brians, all very generous. Sherlocks Butchers for the Player of the Week, and then Sweat Happens Reset and Recovery studio out in Tubbercurry there with Brian Curran. So thanks to the guys for supporting us. Anyone else want to support our sponsors, you're very welcome to. All donations gladly accepted. And thanks for giving the prizes out to the players. So we'll just quickly run through the intermediate and junior A. I mean, we couldn't possibly cover everything out down to junior B and junior C. I can give you one update in the junior B. But anyway, Sligo Intermediate Championship. Let's just quickly go through the results in Group 1. Giva with a comprehensive win, 118-18 against Coolaney. And then also on Saturday, Castleconnor 211, Curry 119. So the Group 1 table at the moment, Curry's on 4, Castleconnor and Giva on 2, and Ballymote and Coolaney no points. So I'm going to guess you might have been at the Giva game yourself.
I was.
And any little insights, or did you hear anything from the Castleconnor Curry game? Or
no, look, Castleconnor and Curry, as I mentioned last week, I thought it would be that little bit tight.
Yeah.
Again, Curry are odds-on favourites to win the championship. And based on their league form and based on the players that they have at the moment, rightly so. But Castleconnor are no bad team. And obviously with Sean Carabine back and pulling the strings there, and great to see him back playing football. And they have a couple of other good footballers there, Stephen Rogan on the inside. They have big Michael Sheridan at midfield, who played county under 20 a couple of years ago. And they put it up to Curry. Now, by all accounts, I think Curry missed a few goal chances throughout the game, but they had a spread of scores instead of relying on
Mr. Marin on the how did he get on?
I think he got six on Saturday evening. But again, look, it's what we said is, this time of the year, them games are for winning, and Castleconnor will be happy with the performance. Curry will be just happy to get out there with the W, In relation to my own club, Giva against Coolaney, good, strong performance. I had mentioned that the difference between junior and intermediate on paper doesn't look like a huge lot, but on Sunday in the game, it just looked like that there was a gulf in class.
Okay.
Coolaney have lost Owen Carty, who I think he was in America for a few weeks, then he came back and now he's gone to London, so he's a huge loss to them because he is their best player. He was player of the championship last year when they won it, so he's a big loss and a big void to fill. But gave it to their credit, done well. They were strong, they were physical, and they put up a big score, 118. It's good clipping. Again, working off a small panel and small numbers, it is what it is. But again, at this time of the year, you just got to win them games and you got to face off what's in front of you,
Yeah. And then this weekend's fixtures in Group 1, Coolaney play Curry in Kilcoyne Park in Tubbercurry at 5 o'clock on Saturday evening. And then Sunday, Ballymote Round Towers against Giva. And that's at Father Kevin Breheny Park at 5 o'clock also. So 2 games, that's on Sunday, my apologies.
Yeah.
So 5 o'clock both days, Saturday, Sunday. So are you, again, you've got the inside track on Giva. Are you feeling confident against Ballymote?
Yeah, look at Ballymote, look at they're coming down.
I'm just looking up something there while you're talking.
Yeah, like they're kind of swapping places from Division 1 to Division 2 this year. Ballymote got relegated.
Okay.
But Ballymote have a strong panel. They have lots of players, and Liam O'Gormley is there for a long few years now managing them,
Yeah.
And when you have the same manager in place for an awful lot of years and you're getting all your players playing, like they have the 3 Lavins playing there together now, 3 brothers, okay? They have Zach O'Dowd there in the full forward line. And, but they're strong. They're physically strong. But again, Giva are physically strong, okay? I expect it to be a battle. Ballymote probably, will be looking at slightly favourites for the game. But again, I think it's a bit of a toss-up. Ballymote are probably in a habit of losing, which is a bad place to be, whether it's league or championship, because they only won 1 game in the league and got relegated. And that game that they won was against Tubbercurry, who were also relegated, who lost all their games. And then they lost their opening round of the championship against Curry. So it can be a funny place to be. So look, I'd expect it to be a battle. Hard point or two here or there. Wouldn't rule out a draw either, to be honest. Okay. And then on the other game with Curry and Coolaney, after what I seen of Coolaney the last day and what I know of Curry, they got Tommy Ross on the last day, another county player who was injured, as you mentioned. Yeah. But he came on the last day, so he's probably going to be knocking down the door, Jimmy Langan, this weekend to start, because you need to be playing, you need to be getting into these teams, and they're just strong. They've lots of players, they've loads of numbers, and again, Ado flying up there in the forward line. I'd expect that Curry would have a lot in store for Coolaney, unfortunately.
And Group 2 then, Enniscrone killed Glass 2-12 to St. Farnan's 15. Colliery St. Joseph's, their first outing of the championship, they lost by 2 points. They 13 points to Colliery, Bunnanadden 15 points, and Bunnanadden topped the table on 4, Enniscrone on 2, so are Farnans, and Colliery and St. Pat's on no points at the moment. So again, you're more in the know with all this world than me, and I suppose Colliery probably a bit disappointed after winning the league.
Yeah, they will be, but they won Division 3 league.
Yeah,
so
it's a different, maybe
it's a step up.
And Bunnanadden have won 2 games.
Yes, they have, right. And what I'd say about it being a step up is that you're not, again, it's not a huge, not a huge step up, but you're playing different teams. You're playing an intermediate team or a real strong physical team in Bunnanadden. Okay, so there was a lot of games that Colliery were winning by double figures in that Division 3. Yeah. No disrespect to the teams, and that's where they ended up after a few years. So it was probably an eye-opener for Colliery at the weekend, because we mentioned, they have great players from their keeper right down to the full forward line. They have top quality players. Yeah. But again, Bunnanadden, I think, kicked a couple of 2-pointers late on. Bunnanadden are a big, strong team, and Aidan Rooney managed them. He'll have them well set up. They're sitting pretty at the top of the table with 2 from 2. Again, they'll be looking at one more win, more than likely, with the way that the results are going. In that
and I suppose it was only a 2-point loss for Colliery in their first game.
Of course, their first game in championship. On the flip side of that, in Enniscrone and Farnans, we had mentioned that that's the West Derby over there, and again, just the way that lines up, Enniscrone, Farnans, toss of a coin really, because Enniscrone coming off a bad loss, Farnans were after winning the week before. Again, any of them teams could be beating each other on any given day. Like the fixtures this weekend.
Yeah, St. Patrick's are playing Colliery St. Joseph's. That's in Kent Park on Saturday at 5 o'clock. And then Sunday at 5 o'clock as well, Bunnanadden versus St. Farnans in Tourlestrane. So again, Colliery looking to redeem themselves, and again, St. Pat's haven't got a point.
Yeah, so Pats are struggling. I said that a tough enough time in league football, and they've lost a lot of players. Colliery will be looking to get back on the horse in a big way at the weekend, and I'd expect them to do so. On the flip side of that, Bunnanadden and Farnans, again, it's one of these games that Bunnanadden are expected to win, okay? Because of the way that the form guide is going, etc., etc. But Fairness on their day could produce a performance, but if Budnaden have all their ducks in order and they have all their players on the pitch, like Luke Marin is, top scorer up there, and then they have big boys like Big Frayne and Clavin in the middle of the field, and then they have Key and Brett there at half back line breaking lines. They're a strong team, they really are. So I'd expect them to win over Farnans.
And we'll just quickly run through the Sligo Junior A Championship. The results in Group 1, Tourlestrane 213, St Michael's 218, Owenmore Gaels 221, comprehensive winners over Coolera 3-6. Owenmore are top of the table there on 4, Mary's and St Michael's on 2, and Tourlestrane and Coolera and no points for them yet. And this weekend on Saturday at 5 o'clock in Shamrock Gaels Park, you have St Michael's playing Coolera Strandhill, and on Sunday at 2 o'clock you have St Mary's playing Tourlestrane, and that is in the GAA Centre of Excellence. And then in Group 2, St John's had a win, and again we'll have a quick chat about it in a second, but I heard there was breaches, there was tension. They just narrowly beat Drumcliff 3-12 to 2-14. Eastern Harps 3-9, Shamrock Gaels 1-11. And in that group, John's are top, 2 games, 2 wins. And again, I suppose the favourites are starting to rise to the top there. Owenmore Gaels on 4 at the top of one group, and St John's top of the other. Molaise Gaels and Eastern Harps on 2 points each, and Shamrock Gaels and Drumcliff yet to get off the mark. This weekend then you see Shamrock Gaels play Drumcliff, Ross's Point. That is on Sunday at 2 o'clock in Stenson Park. And then on Sunday also St Molaise Gaels play Eastern Harps, and that's 2 o'clock in Coolaney Community Park. Again, hopefully we've all our results and fixtures that everything right. If not, go to sligoga.ie. But again, I know John's, it was a real ding-dong battle there, and someone said I might be wrong with like 3 or 4 breaches for Drumcliff. And these little lapses in discipline, and that swings the game, It
can, of course. Look, it's and you probably in them games like the one by a point, you're relying on that to get across the line. Drumcliff, as we mentioned, are a very strong senior team, which I guarantee you some of them guys are training with the senior team, and they're getting game time with the juniors, which is helping them along. And it's no more in Group 1 with St Mary's. They have loads of players there that are involved with the senior setup, that are training with the senior setup, and then they get to play in a junior match. So they're very strong. Do you know what I mean? But again, like we mentioned at the very start of doing this, that Owenmore Gaels and St John's, if they avoid each other, they should be meeting each other regardless in the final, because they're 2 first teams there, and that's where they're at again. But there could be a surprise along the way, like Tourlestrane beating St Michael's there, or losing to St Michael's at the weekend. St Michael's, Pádraig McGoldrick there, elder statesman, kicking 8 or 9 points again for St Michael's. He's around for donkey's years as well. But again, look, that's junior football, and you just don't know where anybody would be, because you don't know who's going to be around at the weekend. You don't know what teams are going to lose players to their first team.
That's the constant conundrum, isn't it?
Of course it is.
Who's now available or not?
Yeah, because some manager could say, well, I want this guy today, or I'm down a body, so I want him tugging out for me.
And I suppose Owenmore and Johns have the advantage then of going, we won't lose anyone to a higher up team, whereas as you said there, you have Coolera, you have Tourlestrane.
And as we mentioned with Ryan Phillips kicking 2-9 for Owenmore Gaels, and Dylan Walsh there, county player. Mark Walsh didn't play at the weekend. I think he's carrying a knock from the league final. But, they're a real strong team from back to front, But, again, there'll be ups and downs in that junior championship that you don't see coming,
Yeah. And again, as I said, the Junior B and Junior C is taken off. I can tell you that St John's beat St Mary's, because I came on for a few minutes at the end. But I tell you one thing, St Mary's is a big pitch. You don't realise it till you're on it. But and again, I'll be honest, I mean, all the fixtures are on Sligo GA. We literally couldn't be covering everything here. But again, it's been a great few weeks, and I'm looking forward to now seeing Molaise and, sorry, I have to get myself right here, this weekend, Molaise and Drumcliff out in Ballymote, which we'll be commentating on Ocean FM. Again, for anyone, there's still the weekend pass tickets it's €15 for a weekend pass. SligoGATV.ie if you want to watch any of the streamed games this weekend, and Ocean FM, of course, with all the updates and some live broadcasting commentary as well. So Darren, we're getting to the business end after this weekend. So, do you dare to do a little prediction? Have you?
It's too soon to call.
It's really hard to call. And again, I'm coming in like a fresh face here, kind of seeing it all. So you couldn't confidently.
No, on the form lines, just the way that things are going at the moment, you're probably going to be saying that Drumcliff are ticking all the boxes at the right time. They're just there where they need to be. If they were to win this weekend, semi-final awaits them, and you're in the last 4 there. And again, you get a couple of weeks to recover, and having, even last weekend with Cian Lally there, not having to play against Easkey because being able to rest
and another man stepping up. Then, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Michael Carroll clipping in there with 9 points, and again, look at it's there'll be twos and fro's in this championship, but it's heating up now, and the jeopardy starts coming into play now. That get them teams into the top position that are in the semi-final, then the second and third end up getting playing second and third in the other group, and that's when it's going to heat up really, like, you know.
Well, look, we will be back next week. Thanks again. Now, as I said, we had to set up a bit differently this week, but I think it's worked okay.
That's all right.
It's nice to be next and close to you, Darren. But again, thanks to Sherlocks Butchers and Ballisodare and Sweat, Reset and Recovery. Have we got that in Tubbercurry? Again, very kind for the guys to sponsor us with our Player of the Week and our top score each week. Again, if you are watching, please like, share, comment, follow us. This really helps the growth grow, and you know what I mean. We love you interacting. Don't be afraid to make a comment. Keep it polite, keep it kind, but we love hearing a bit of chat and give us some inside information on games. And we will be back next week, Darren. We'll see you again.